Bum, bum, bum. Oh yeah, whose car can you use for the driving test? That is a very good question. More or less any car, provided you are insured on the car and you have someone else in the vehicle with you. And they can't just be anyone. This person must be over the age of 21 and they must have held their license for at least 3 years. If you are learning a manual car as well, they must also have a manual license, so the person helping you couldn't be an automatic only driver. The person teaching you must also have held a license for at least 3 years, but apparently it can be from anywhere in Europe, the UK, Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, or apparently Liechtenstein, but double check that. Something else to note is some insurance companies actually do require the person that's teaching you to be over the age of 25, so just double check that with your insurance before you just start cracking on. Let's get a bit more specific about whose car that you can actually take and whose car you can't actually take. You can go in the driving instructor's car. You can go in mum and dad's car. You can go in your own car. You can either go in a rented car, but I wouldn't advise the rented car because it must have dual control, so that's more in theory. Practicality, it's not worth it. Which cars are not allowed on the driving test? Now, there are some cars that are not allowed on the driving test, such as any convertibles. Anything that is a convertible car is not going to be allowed. There is a list on the .gov website. I will put it in the description below if you'd like to get specific. So in theory, provided your car has L plates, it is roadworthy, it's taxed, it's insured, it's MOT'd. An ideal world, you've got the extra mirrors. You can turn up to your test in pretty much any car, provided it's not convertible. You do, however, need to make sure there are no warning lights on the engine. You've got no flat tires. You can't have a space saver spare tire on there either, because these are only designed to go up to 50 miles per hour. And you may very well be expected to go higher than this. So space savers are a no-no. And ideally make sure you're not low fuel, because the examiner's not going to be happy if you're on the yellow line. Something else worth noting is at the beginning of your driving test, you're going to be expected to sign an insurance declaration form. And this just states that you confirm that you have valid insurance for the driving test. Now, if you're using a driving instructor car, then you've got nothing to worry about. That's a driving instructor's problem. It will be sorted. If you're in your own car or anyone else's car and you've got a learner insurance policy, again, this is going to be absolutely covered. Quick tip, before you agree to actually go with the driving instructor, make sure you double check the prices. Some driving instructors specify 3 hours. I myself charge for 2 hours. But at the end of the day, you're paying for the driving instructor's time and their car. So double check this before you go any further. So you can use pretty much any car, provided it's not a convertible. Now let's have a look at, is there a difference between taking an instructor's car or taking one's own car? Now, if you're going with the driving instructor's car, the first problem you've got is you've got to rely on the driving instructor, and they're just people the same as anyone else. So you've got to rely that they're going to be available, so make sure they are available. The bonus to going with a driving instructor is you're going to be able to practice before you test. It's going to help you warm up. It's going to help you if you've got any development points that you need to just warm up on, you know, those reverse bay maneuvers or that dodgy roundabout. If it's your driving instructor's car, you should know it pretty well as well now. You know, you will have had lots of practice in that car, hopefully. So you're going to be nice and comfortable in the car. This is particularly important on your driving test when you've already got the nerves already. You don't want more nerves on top. And as I said before, you should know the car as well if you're going with your driving instructor, and chances are it's not going to be a banger. So it should be a nice, easy drive that you are familiar with. The other really important point with the driving instructor's car is it's actually got dual controls. And sometimes I think this is a little bit overlooked, but remember, you've got an examiner there who's, you know, assessing your driving. They don't know if you can actually drive or not, so it could be quite a nerve-wracking situation for them. So if the driving examiner does need to intervene and they haven't got dual controls, they're not going to give you as much time to fix the situation as they would if they did have dual controls. So there's no actual evidence that you're more likely to pass with a driving instructor's car, but if you think of it like that, it would be better to have a car that's got dual controls. On the flip side of that, I've had plenty of students pass in their own vehicles, even if I've gone with them or if they've gone on their own or with mum and dad. And on top of that, they've saved approximately between 70 and 80 pounds because they haven't had to pay me for 2 hours of my time, because they've gone with mum and dad and passed the test first time. So you're also going to be saving money by not going for the driving instructor, because at the end of the day, it's costing between what, 30 and 40 pound per hour by going with the driving instructor. On top of your test, it can become a very expensive game to play. Saying that though, however, if you go with your driving instructor, you've got that moral support, and it's going to be a rather nerve-wracking situation for most. So if you feel like that would be beneficial, then the driving instructor is probably the way to go. If you go with the driving instructor, you also don't need to worry worry about the car issues. You know, there's no worries about engine lights, there's no worries about flat tires, low fuel, having a clean car. Driving instructor is going to deal with all of that for you. Let's have a look at the flip side if we decide to take our own car. Chances are if you've got your own car, you've probably been driving that a lot in your spare time with mum, dad, or whoever, which means you're going to know that car very, very intimately. This means you're going to be comfortable in the car, which again, on your driving test is a really good reason to take your own car. In fact, it's probably the biggest reason. However, on the flip side, you need to make sure that your car is up to standard. So it needs the MOT, it needs no engine warning lights. You need to make sure it's clean, tidy, no flat tires, etc., etc. That's your responsibility. And if it's not up to scratch and you get there, the examiner will just refuse to take you. You'll lose your money, you won't get a refund. And you'll lose your date, which means you'll have to start the process of booking it all again. But avoiding this situation isn't actually hard. It is just making sure you've got a clean, tidy car and that actually your car's just roadworthy. Or as I mentioned before, your car won't have dual controls, which means if the examiner was to need to intervene, they're not going to give you as much time to fix the situation. But if you're a good, confident driver, this is going to make no difference to you anyway. The other great part about having your own vehicle to practice in and take your test in is chances are you will have had a lot of experience driving your own vehicle with whoever it is that is your faithful confidant. The problem with this is you've got to make sure that that faithful confidant is very hot on with the driving habits, making sure that you are checking your mirrors, you are signaling, you are doing everything you're supposed to be doing in good time, because otherwise they're going to encourage bad habits to develop, which then you're paying more money to try and undo. So I am always a firm believer that extra practice, extra experience in your own car is by far going to outweigh any negative. It is also well worth being aware that you could potentially pick up bad habits that will need fixing again before the driving test. And touching on what I mentioned before, do you need a driving instructor to take with you to the test? No, there is no reason to take a driving instructor to the test if you're quite confident, you're quite happy with whoever it is that you normally practice in your vehicle. As I said before, there is no evidence that you're more likely to pass with a driving instructor, and it's purely your own choice. As I said before though, you must make sure your car's up to standard, and you must make sure the person that is with you has had a valid license for 3 years and they're over the age of 21. Also need to make sure you are insured. You can, however, take a driving instructor in your own car if you prefer to do that than go in your driving instructor's car. But do make sure you check with your driving instructor that this is the plan and they're happy to do this, because it's not a God-given right. Another question I often get: can I use the extra car features such as reverse bay parking cameras, reverse bay parking sensors, automatic handbrake? And the short answer is yes, you can. Anything that your car has been fitted with, you are welcome to use on your driving test. After all, these have been fitted to make your life as a driver easier and, more importantly, safer on the road. However, and this is the big but, remember you are being tested on safety of your driving on the road. So if you come to any situation such as a maneuver that requires you to reverse, the best way to avoid making sure you hit something or someone is to always look behind you and around the vehicle. Do not get caught in the honey trap of staring into the reverse bay camera, because this is not going to show you if there's anyone else around the vehicle. So don't stare at your reverse bay parking or your reverse bay cameras. You can use it the same as you'd use side mirrors, but make sure you're still looking around the vehicle. If you're not going with a driving instructor, you will need to make sure that you do go to your test with someone that is held a license for at least 3 years and is over the age of 21. And remember, if you do pass your driving test, you may very well no longer be insured on that car, particularly if it's a learner driver policy. So don't drive home from the driving test. I am Josh, a driving instructor. If this has helped, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.